Hello and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Tuesday, June the 13th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us today. Hope your Tuesday's well. We call this Thankful Tuesday, and we do have much to be thankful for. Yesterday, we did not post a video. We had taken some time. I thought I would have perhaps more time to do some things yesterday, but we pretty much took the entire day and I spent it with a pastor friend of ours and also a work associate with him, and went up to the mountains there in North Carolina. And what a beautiful view where his place is. Had a wonderful time of fellowship, grilled some burgers and hot dogs, and then I saw a real beautiful waterfall up that way. And so just the creation of God is so magnificent. And let me just say this, I'm a little bit, what's the word here? When I think about the state of North Carolina, biased, I guess is the word. The beautiful mountains. We live in the Piedmont, which is the rolling hills, the center portion of the state. And then, of course, we've got the coast, on the coast of North Carolina. And I can't think of any better state to live in than North Carolina. Now, I know there's people who watch this. You're in different states and all that. I get it. It's fine. But I love North Carolina. Beautiful, beautiful state. But we were able to be up in the mountains yesterday. So here we are back today. We're in the book of Esther, so we'll be in Esther today and tomorrow. And one of my favorite books, I was called to preach from a passage in Esther, and we're going to look at that passage here in just a moment. All right, from the Today book, we'll just read June 13th today. It says that one entry, in 1963, public school prayer and Bible reading was outlawed by the Supreme Court. Now, we've heard about this decision. If you attend a Bible-believing, Bible-preaching church, this is brought up. It's hard to believe that in 1963, that was a year before I was born, that was made in the United States of America. You can see that in other countries, and but not in America. But here we see it, and you can see the effects of that. But you know what? We've got to continue on. We've got to do what we can to make sure the kids are influenced by the Word of God. And parents, you've got to really do that too, knowing that all the time that's spent in school, I know school is out now for the most part, but all that to say they spend a lot of time. And there's a lot of things where they're indoctrinated with things. You know that. And of course, you can watch the news and see all the perverse things now. Not just the absence of the Bible, but now the promoting of the things that are just horrible. So let's be in prayer for our schools, our teachers, the children, of course. And if you as a parent feel that it's just not, you can't put your kids in public school. There's alternatives, of course. And but that's sad in 1963 that was done. All right, so we're in Esther chapter 4 today. As I mentioned, when I was a young man, we'd just been married. I think, we'd been married, I think, a couple of years. And let me make sure I'm right on that. I think a couple of years, and then I went to pastor school up in Hammond, Indiana. And on a Thursday night, March, I think maybe 22 or 23, I don't remember the date, but I remember it was a Thursday. It was the third week of Monday through Friday. They had pastor school. And Brother Jack Hiles, Pastor Hiles, Dr. Hiles, however you want to call him, he preached from this passage on a Thursday evening. And I'm going to read the passage here to you. I don't really have to do all the explaining here. Many of you would know this, but I'm going to go ahead and read the passage here. Mordecai had said to Esther, who was now the queen, said, look, the Jews are in danger of being destroyed, and you're the queen now, and you can do something about it, or at least make an attempt to go before the king. And that was a very dangerous thing to do, because unless the king kind of had bid you come, then your life could be taken, even if you was the queen. So that's what it says here. Then Esther bade them return Mordecai this answer. Go gather together all the Jews that are present in Shushan, and fast ye for me, neither eat nor drink 3 days, night or day. I also and my maidens will fast likewise, and so will I go in unto the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. I've underlined in my Bible here, if I perish, I perish. And that was the message that night in 1989, in which basically the message was about that if it comes a point in our day in which it's going to cost you your life because you've got to do the right thing. In this case was to plead the case of the Jews' plight and fate. And of course that did happen. And of course the Jews were delivered. Wonderful story. But the point is, Queen Esther says, if I approach the king and I die because of it, in my attempt to save our people, then if I perish, I perish. And the message was about in America, as a pastor, as a child of God even, but certainly as a preacher, that the day comes in which you stand up and you preach the words of God. You stand up to help save the lives of people. We call it soul winning, preaching the gospel. If the day comes preaching the word of God cost us our life, even cost us, well, we'll say cost us imprisonment perhaps first. And that day's a coming. But if it does cost us our life, if I perish, I perish. And I heard that night. I was not a preacher then. And I didn't go there intending to become a preacher. But I was called that night. That night when they had the invitation, 189 men went forward and said God had called them to preach. Well, I was one of the 189. Now, bear in mind, that's been now, let's see, 1989, so 11 years to the year 2000. This is the year 2023, so 23 and 11 years. That was 34 years ago. I think I'm right on that. 34 years ago, yes. 34 years ago, it was said that if the day ever come. Now, in 1989, it wasn't quite as bad as it is in the year 2023. So the point I'm making is, if it was said then, and then you move forward 34 years, in which that's when that happened, that message was preached, and I was called to preach, then imagine then, of course, how much different it is now to make that statement. You make that statement now, and the real possibility exists much more now than it ever did. And I tell our folks sometimes from time to time, the day will probably come in which the way I preach, I'm talking about preaching the Bible, and it's sad we just preach the Bible. That's going to put you in jeopardy of imprisonment or censorship even, and certainly even your life. But I'll say this. When I heard that message, it moved me, and I said to myself, God, if you've called me to preach, then also know that the message in which I was called to preach was about a condition that may one day exist. So, Lord, as I'm yielding, as I'm giving myself, as I am coming and saying, Lord, I'm bringing myself to you to be a preacher of the gospel, to be a pastor, then I realize when I say that, then I'm also saying if I perish, I perish. So I stand behind that to this day. And I'm not trying to, tempt anybody. I'm just telling you, and I know this goes out on public airways, does now through the social media, but I'm telling you, I don't want to be a Job. I'm not looking to be a martyr, but I'm telling you this, in that particular situation, the Jews' plight throughout the entire world was in the hands of one person, humanly speaking. That was Esther, and she did what she did, and the king, of course, and a lot of amazing things happened in which those Jews were spared. But let's be the kind of people that say, Lord, I want to stand. I want to do what's right. And if the day ever comes in which, the extremes may happen because I've got to do the right thing, then just so be it, because that's the right thing. And I say today, if I perish, I perish. So that's been 34 years. That's hard to imagine. As I'm counting up the years here, I'm thinking it's hard to believe it's been that long, but here I am. So let's stand with those who stand with God and realize sometimes there's a cost. Well, we're going to stop right there. Hope you have a great day, and be safe, be healthy, and Lord willing, we'll see you tomorrow on Winning Wednesday.